Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Rockman Power Hour podcast, where we talk to the most interesting people in the world of pop culture. And this week on the show, we have got the guitar player from Cattle Decapitation. His name is Josh Elmore, and they've got a brand new album that is out. They have a tour that they are on right now, and we're going to talk to him about that right here on the Rockman Power Hour. All right, thanks so much for joining us this week. Before we go too far, we'd like to thank our title sponsor, Heartbeat Hot Sauce. They are the heartbeat of the Rockman Power Hour. And if you use our promo code Rockman20, you'll get 20% off one of these incredible hot sauces. I am holding up the Ryan Ellis Heartbeat Hot Sauce Red Habanero, and this is the official hot sauce of Ryan Ellis, and they are part of the motorsports industry right now. Heartbeat are taking over. They've got cars in NASCAR. They've got motorcycles. They've got everything going on right now, Ryan, and they're just an incredible hot sauce.
They got Kung Fu Grip.
They do?
I don't know. It's just usually something they say where it's like, it comes with this, and Kung Fu Grip.
You're going to need Kung Fu Grip to get this out of my hands, but definitely check them out at heartbeathotsauce.com and use our promo code Rockman20 to get 20% off your entire order. Also, a big thanks to Studio House Designs. Ryan, what are you rocking today?
Well, I figured since we're interviewing Cattle Decapitation, I should show some movies where a lot of decapitation is depicted.
I like that. So you've got one of the wonderful stacks on, as I can see, and that is the Toby Hooper stack. I love all of those movies. Great movies.
I haven't seen Funhouse yet, though. For what it's worth, I just want to be real.
Yeah,
I haven't seen Funhouse.
No, Funhouse is good, man. Funhouse, but the one on top is my favorite. Salem's Lot. That's my jam.
There's a new Salem's Lot coming out later this year, I believe, and it'll be the third one because Toby Hooper did the TV miniseries, which is fucking awesome, and a lot of vampire tropes and cinematic tropes come from this one. And that one also gave, the cool thing about Toby Hooper's one is that it really nods to the Nosferatu vampire.
Yeah.
And then there was a remake with Rob Lowe in the 2000s where where the vampire is a little more less inhuman, a little bit more charismatic, because let's face it, in the 90s and 2000s, vampires were getting all sexy.
Yeah.
So, but I'm really looking forward to this new Salem Slot. I hope they return to form and make, just the vampire an absolute monstrosity.
Yeah, no, it should be good. So thank you to Studio House Designs. I'm still rocking the Beetlejuice, but I put a shirt over it so I don't smell as bad because I can't take the shirt off. I absolutely love this shirt. Thanks to Dixon too. Great shirt.
It's actually tattooed on your chat. Like, you've got a lot of new tattoos recently. I just figure that this is just part of your skin now.
Yeah, I figured at this point, I've got to make sure that when I get arrested and I am in prison, I've got to look like the hardest guy in the pen. When I get into the yard, I got to look mean. So I'm going for my teardrops next week, and then I'm going to do my entire head. I think I'm just going to put a big wolf on my head. I don't know.
If I was in prison, man, they would use me as currency.
Oh my God, you would be everybody's boy blue.
They would trade me for cigarettes.
All right, so on the show this week, we've got someone from the band Cattle Decapitation. His name is Josh Elmore. This is a band from San Diego, and they've got a brand new album out, Ryan. I don't know if you've had a chance to check it out, but it is really cool.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's called Terrasite. And what I love about Cattle Decapitation is that they are one of those bands that if you were a musician's musician, you're going to love them because technically, dude, this is classical music. It's insane what they're able to do. And I've always liked this band. I've always liked their stance when it came to their artwork. The fact that they're so pro animal and that they're, started off as hardcore vegans. They're vegetarians now, but regardless of how they eat, they've got a message about how humans are the vermin of the earth.
I would love to hear. This interview was recorded weeks ago, but I would love to hear what they thought about Guardians of the Galaxy because that rocket storyline.
Oh, it's so good.
Everybody out there in the animal rights world, let us know what you thought of Guardians of the Galaxy because I think it's like a $500 million animal rights ad. And in all the best ways, but in none of the, in a clever Star Trek way where you're throwing you're throwing something in there, but you're not too on the nose.
You're not exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, living with Melissa, who's such an animal lover and an activist when it comes to animal rights.
She won't even eat anything with a shadow.
That's
a joke.
No, that's okay. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure she would love cattle decapitation, and she would have a shine to them because of that. Like I remember when we would talk about UFC, and she'd be like, "Oh, I love Nate Diaz because he's vegan," and right away that's going to be her favorite fighter, and that's
there you go.
So it's great when you can have that kind of connection, and I love when a band stands for something. You can stand for, who was the band? There was the one band. Well, obviously AC/DC were that band that kind of stood for partying, but then there was Airborne, and Airborne were that band that stood for having a good time. And that's okay. Just plant your flag in the sand and stand for something. So the fact that Cattle Decapitation do stand for what they stand for. And I just think it's great. And it's always been the first thing that attracted me to the band. When you talk about album covers and you talk about discographies, and you talk about the song animal titles, okay? Humanure, Monolith of Inhumanity. I just think, titles like that and the artwork, it's just great. And one of their one of their covers of their album, I think it was Humanure, is a cow, pooping, and it's human. Like it's pooping human beings. Like it's just great. It's just
a disdain for humanity.
Yeah, and they're really, really talented too.
Extremely. And you mentioned in the interview, they're more extreme music. This is music that would worry my parents. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it's so intense. Even Slayer probably wouldn't scare my parents nearly as much as Cattle Decapitation. But it's not just that they're heavy. It's because they're so precise. Someone mentioned, I can't remember. I was watching classic albums, and it was Black Sabbath, and someone mentioned, it's like Ozzy said, well, anybody could be a heavy band, but it's just we have such a good rhythm section that everything we do sounds heavier. And it's true. Black Sabbath had one guitar player, but at the same time, it sounded like it sounded heavy as a building.
Yeah.
And I think it's because Cattle Decapitation are so precise, like when it comes to the drums, the bass, the guitars. It's like, to someone to someone who's not used to the genre, they could be like, oh, it's just a bunch of people making noise. But it's like, no, that is calculated fucking tightness.
Well, it's like Goat Whore. Goat Whore was the same thing, like so extreme, but so good, So Cattle Decap, definitely love that band. They're going to be in town May 26th in Montreal. So without any further ado, Ryan, why don't we jump to our chat right now with Josh from the band Cattle Decapitation. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, man. It's funny because Sarah and I have been friends for quite some time, and she's been singing this band's praises to me for years and years and years. And I work in a pretty mainstream radio station in Montreal, but I do love extreme music, and it was just always trying to find a place where I could talk to Cattle Decapitation. Mm-hmm. And finally, when I started my podcast a year and a bit ago, I was like, this is the podcast where I can have Cattle Decapitation on one week, and next week I can have on Naughty by Nature.
Yeah, no, that's great. The more eclectic, the better. I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah, me too. And I think what's great about the podcast form is that you can really, and I'm sure when you go through a day of interviews, a good chunk of it is people that are very familiar with the band, that are hardcore fans that can go deep. But I love the idea of bringing, a newer audience to something that they haven't discovered and might say, hey, like, I want to know more about this. So
first off, seems like more like effective, not that like, I don't want to like answer questions that people are, fans of the band or know the band for a long history, but it's like, if you can, get people's interest that would never listen to this sort of thing or, haven't stumbled upon us, then sure. Great.
And I think with the thing with, being someone who's played metal, who's been in a metal band, whose tastes are very varied. Like I could go from, Cattle Decapitation to Steely Dan in a day.
Oh yeah. Same here.
Yeah. And that's what I love about music. And I think what's great about this band is that there's so many layers to this onion. You can talk to, I talked to Sammy from Goat Whore maybe a month and a half ago, and like, Sammy, Goat Whore, what you're going to get. It's like he's right off the bat. It's like we're about Satan. You know, we're extreme. But what I love about this band is there's so many sides to this band. You know, obviously, just the fact that, you know, the animal activism, putting the human in the position of the animal, that's been there since the beginning. And I love that, because someone could just jump in and look at this band who could just be, you know, a pop music loving vegan and be, I like this. So there's so many jumping off points for people that want to dive into Cattle Decapitation.
Yeah, and that's happened. People have kind of aren't metal or extreme metal, whatever you want to call it, people that maybe came in with that angle, you know, like, you know, just be, like, found a link or something, and we were just one of these bands on there, and they're like, well, this is kind of weird, you know, the name, of course, being sort of intriguing, because why would this be here? And then checking it out, and then, like, you know, this isn't the type of music I normally listen to, but for some reason this is clicking with me. So yeah, it's definitely, people have odd paths to get to the band, but, you know, whatever works.
When you do, you know, when you start to see people coming to the shows, that you can tell probably when you're looking out in the audience going, hey man, this is like a newer crowd, that's got to be a good feeling, that you know that the message is going, you know, you're going beyond the, you know, you're preaching beyond the converted.
Yeah. And I think especially like with this tour we did, we were in Place Bell in Montreal there.
Okay. Yeah. For sure.
Back in December with Amon Amarth.
Yeah.
You know, we were kind of like, you know, as being in a touring band, you know, anyone can say this that's done that. You're often attempted to be sold on the, oh, you should do this tour because it'll really open up your fan base or whatever. And I mean, that's, you know, throughout our history, and I'm sure every other band, and about 9 times out of 10, it's just like, that didn't do anything. I mean, not that there's a metric that you can, I mean, maybe, you know, something, but most of the time it's like, were you just trying to fill a void here? You know, but with this tour, you know, obviously Monomarth, Carcass, Obituary, 3 huge bands in the metal world. And we were like, well, yes, that is an attempt, you know, and like a means to kind of further our band, because there's probably a lot of Monomarth listeners that probably don't even know we exist or never really gave us a chance. And Carcass, I'm sure there's a lot of their fans that cross over to us pretty healthily, because it's the same for us and them. And Obituary, same kind of thing. So it's not that we're just looking at it as an attempt to, like, you know, oh, we just got to expand our fan base or whatever. You know, us being lifelong Carcass fans, Obituary and everything, it was an honor to be part of it. But we came away from that tour not only being, you know, super happy with, you know, the response and everything, but being like you mentioned, it's just like, this is one of the first times that I felt, and we felt as a collective, as a band, that this legitimately has helped, quote, grow the band. Yeah. You know, because it's not just because you're playing in front of way more people than we normally would, but, you know, I don't know how many times, whether we're walking around after the show or, you know, people, you know, comment online saying, I'd heard of you, or I'd even never heard of you, but man, I was won over that day. So I went out and bought a couple records, you know, just to kind of try to have that experience again. And I'm going to come see you next time you're in town. So I'm like, that's what that's about then, you know? So it's one of the first times that there was actually this plus this equals this,
right?
Which, you know, how rare that is in life. So it was just like, we were really happy with that. So definitely that was a big step for us, I think, which just helped set the stage for interest, because we played one new song on that tour. So then it was like, oh, here's a new song. And then hopefully people pick up this record, or, you know, check out a few songs, or whatever level of involvement they want to have. And, you know,
and I think that's great. You know, with a band like Amon Amarth, what's great about them is they're another band that, you know, a great jumping off point for people that want to dive into extreme music, because they've got a little more meat around the bones. You know, in terms of like having something that you can dig into, and you can go like, oh man, like there's a, you know, there's another aspect to this band, you know, like there's the whole Viking thing. And so I'm glad that worked for you, because when I saw you guys were on that tour, I was like, this is going to open, my mind was like, this is going to open doors for them, you know?
Yeah. And we were really, that was one of our concerns was, well, obviously because of the other bands, it's like we're opening, but they were like, oh man, people are going to be getting off work, and it's just, you know, what time are we going to have to go on? So, I mean, most nights, with maybe the exception of 1 or 2 days in that tour, we went on at like 6:30 in the evening. And it's like, people are coming home from work, and they're just going to get here probably midway through Obituary, or maybe right when Carcass starts. I bet almost all the shows place was at least 85% full by the time we started. And then by the time we finished, it was, I don't want to say packed, but probably 90, 95% of the way there. So we did not it wasn't this all for naught, like we're on this big tour and there's 20 people out here.
Yeah. Liz, the first, you were first to four, right? Because the first to four thing can be a disaster.
Oh, absolutely. Like there's bands that have these aspirations like, oh, we're going on tour with, I don't know, Slipknot or whatever.
Yeah.
You're playing right
at doors.
The gates open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
You're in front of a huge empty arena, or maybe like, oh, there's 300 people there. Yeah, the place seats like 8,500, or that kind of thing. So we got lucky, and people turned out early. So
yeah, it's great to hear that, because there's times like the first time that I ever played in the US with my band, I remember we had gotten an agent, and he said, we're going to put you on with Motorhead, the Dropkick Murphys, and Hatebreed. So we drove from Montreal all the way to Seattle the day before. We set up somewhere, we rehearsed, we showed up at Doors, before Doors, and they're like, you're not on the bill. We're like, what do you mean you're not on the bill? And we had driven all the way there, and we're like, what the fuck? Lemmy came off his bus, had heard the story, went up to the promoter and said, if you don't let these boys go on for 20 minutes, I'm not playing. So it was one of the greatest. So I'm all too familiar with the first to four thing, and that haunted me for the rest of my life when it came to being in a band. And it was always nice when you got into that immediate support or third, because you're like, but so I'm glad that worked out for you. So, and it's funny how sometimes those concerns that you have, and everyone's selling you on this idea, and you're like, oh man, I know how this is going to go. It's not my first rodeo. So the fact that it worked out, which is really, really great.
Oh, it was super pleasant surprise. Like I said, we'd done tours before where, I remember 21 years ago now, or 20, many, many moons ago, we opened for Guar, and that was the kind of sacrificial lamb slot, the first of three on that run in 2002. And there was several instances of that where the venues something like, show's got to start at such and such a time. Yeah, but there's, this extenuating circumstance. Sorry, got to start. So there's a couple times we're playing while they're just letting people in. Like we literally get, and we had 25 minutes on that Guar thing. So we're in our third song, and maybe there's 20, 30 people kind of wandering in like, what's this? So that's, we weren't expecting anything that extreme, but a little twinge of whatever. But man, it just exceeded our expectations by, I don't know, 1,000-fold.
About to release the eighth record, Terrasite. I imagine 8 albums in, we're talking about being first to four, but I imagine there's many markets where Cattle Decapitation rolls in headlines and you do really, really well. Yeah. We've been, we sort of toyed with maybe a couple instances, or in the earlier 2000s, a little bit prematurely. Outside of our region, like in our region, maybe the West Coast, we could, not always, but a lot earlier than the rest of the country. I think we tried our first headlining run that wasn't just a quick up the coast thing, I think 2006 maybe, and it was okay, it was fine. And then a few after that was kind of, but I think since about maybe a year or two after Monolith of Inhumanity came out, which is like 2013-14, we've been pretty lucky. Like, all of our tours where we've okay, we're going to headline this, we're going to curate the lineup, we're going to we'd like this band to be direct support, or we want to bring this guy in or these people in. Those have gone off incredibly well, So the tour that we have upcoming, this Decibel tour with Dark Funeral and Tour of Stab Wounds and Black Braid. That was it's our record. It's kind of technically our record release tour, since they coincide almost exactly. But I think I don't want to say our real, not to detract from the Decibel tour at all, but one where we're fully headlining and we have this, hour plus set that's going to be in the fall, so then it'll be all the songs off Terrasite that we want to do, and then a peppering out of the past, how many records, to put on there. So we got that coming too, but it's the lineup on the tour coming up here, that starts on May 11th is just come out and see it. Come out and see both of them, please. But for sure.
But we'll get the full headliner set, the one in the fall.
I got a chance to listen to the record. They sent it to me early, and I again, I love extreme music, but I also love the fact that in terms of like, you know, the riffs and just the tightness of this band, you could tell that this isn't a band that just dials it in. I mean, how you guys are really, when you're off the road, are you guys rehearsing a lot? Is it the kind of thing where you try to keep the chops up? Because, you know, there's some bands that, you know, they're like, oh yeah, you know, we all live in different places and we all get together like 6 weeks before and we jam. But this band seems like it's a bit more than that. It seems like at the core, there's some people that are always playing together.
Actually, it's kind of the first version of what you said. We all live, Bell and Travis live in San Diego still.
Yeah.
Dave is in Seattle.
Yeah.
Ollie's in Montreal. And I live right now in Berlin, but during the writing of Terrasite, I was in Serbia with my girlfriend, and she, you know, now we live in Berlin.
Wow.
But so as far as practice, each one of us play on our own a bunch. So I mean, it's not like we only pick up our instruments or whatever when, okay, well, I guess I got to do that. No, we're always playing off to the side, and that's everyone's kind of, I don't say like in writing mode all the time, but constantly kind of, you know, coming up with stuff and then filing it away or whatever. But yeah, we pick a time before whatever tour and go, okay, we have our set's going to be X amount of time. Well, we better devote, you know, this window of just hammering it. I mean, ideally, we would just be able to walk in and go, okay, we're going to throw in a couple of these songs, this song, everyone practices on their own, you know, if we're all in the same city, and then just come together and just hammer it out on a regular schedule. But since we're all three-fifths of us are not in San Diego, we have to kind of unfortunately all right, buy your plane tickets. We come in on this day. We start the next morning.
Right. So the preparation's mostly done like solo.
Personally, yeah.
Right.
So
but there is work that's done. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Cause you can tell like it's
not one of those things. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I highly doubt anyone else is just neglecting, you know, what they do. But yeah, once we, you know, squabble over what the set list is going to be, and make a decision. I mean, I'm in there, like if it's an older song and I may go like, I need a refresher on that, I'll, you know, listen to it again, or in extreme cases be like, I don't know what the heck was I doing? Let me put it in YouTube and watch it like a live video and hope it's showing me. I'm like, oh, that's what I was doing on that, you know.
Have you ever had like, have there ever been a part that you've forgotten and that you're like, shit, I really don't remember how I played that, and you've had to go to some kid that might have tabbed your stuff? Or yeah.
I have to go to like, I'll like go to Bell and be like, do you remember what the heck I was doing? Not what I was doing, but like, what were you doing? And then I go, oh, because then I'll see, you know, just kind of if we're playing different things, or it's just like that run riff, does it go da-da-da or da-da-da, like up and down? It's so like a passing note, but of course we want to get it right, so it's like no one had noticed, but why not do it correctly? So I'll ask him and whatever. But let's say like on some of the songs we're doing on this upcoming run, it was like, oh, okay, let me see, do I remember how that lead goes? Okay, I remember basically the patterns, but I'm like, am I half a step off? I mean, which literally, how do I fix that? Okay, fixed, you know, or whatever. It's not like a big ordeal, but it's still like, okay, did that start on F sharp or F? I don't know. Well, we'll find out. The second we start practice, guess I was wrong.
Right.
But then, you know, I'll get as close as possible. But actually, like relearning some of those songs, like not that I thought it was going to be some big ordeal, but it's like, oh, okay, okay. You fall right back into it. You know, there's nothing that's really, you know, there's very few like mysteries, especially the past several records, since everything is all, you know, clicked out and everything like that. It's a lot easier to figure out. Now, if I was trying to relearn certain Harvest Floor songs,
right,
that might be difficult because there's so much like, not to say improv, but just a lot of like kind of on the spot stuff that I'm like,
well, that's the, you know, and here's something, you know, you get bands that it's becoming more and more popular, you know, fans like, you know, say someone goes and says, you know, Karma Bloody Karma, I want that record from front to back. So it's an anniversary that comes up and you're like, let's do a tour where we do that whole record. That's got to be nightmarish for a lot of bands because there's usually on album cuts that just never get played live. So then you're like, you know, so you'll have somebody that's going to go out and they're going to go like, we're playing this album for like, I'm going to see Black Flag on Wednesday and they're doing all of My War, you know, like, you know, they do My War all the time.
Yeah.
But do they do other songs on the record? So
exactly.
It's
like you said, if someone said, like, okay, Bloody Karma came out in 2006. Like here in a few years, it's like, we're going to do the 20th anniversary. We better play that whole record. All of us be like,
yeah. Have you guys been in that situation where you've done anything like that, where you've played the whole record?
No, well, the only time we actually played a whole record was after Humidor came out in 2004. We did a San Diego show, and our idea was like, oh, we're going to play the whole record front to back, you know?
Yeah.
And we did that live. And I mean, this was, you know, we were a band at that point, especially with Disturbed Band. That record was like 31 minutes long or something like that, if that. So, and that's the whole thing. And our sets were usually about half an hour long. So then Humidor comes out, we're like, we're going to play the whole record, and not counting the like kind of noise sort of collage thing we did in the outro. I think it's like a 47-minute record or something like that, maybe almost an hour. It was 47 minutes. We played the entire record, and then we did some like choice cuts off Disturbed Band. So we did like 3 more songs, which was like another 10 minutes or so. So we're playing basically an hour and double how long we normally played, and are just like, oh, how do we do this? But you know, that was right after we released the record, so everything was kind of fresh. But if we were to go back and do that now, and I think there'd be if someone would suggest that, there'd be a bit of pushback from other members. Like, I don't want to, because it's like these sort of resources of, you know, do I really want to go back and, you know, for some guys, it's like relearn this former member's parts.
Sure.
How many years 20 years down the line in certain cases, where I was around then, Travis was around then, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to like go, oh, this is what it is. Because I'd have to sit there and like really study and figure out what I was doing. Because there's a lot of stuff on those earlier recordings where it's like, it's just not as regimented and as, you know, snap, snap, snap as it is now. So there'd be a lot of research and a lot of probably swearing and heartache put into that. So, and for us, I don't want to say it's not worth it, because there's people that love those areas of the band.
Of course.
I mean, I think even looking back now, there's some great material that came from those time periods. But, you know, when we've tried to bring out older songs like that, or from those records, you know, we slip them into like, when we were doing like the Anthropocene cycle, or maybe earlier on, well, I don't want to say the Death Atlas cycle, because there was only one US tour for that, but, you know, earlier albums, people just kind of give us these blank stares. You know, you see this chatter online, oh, we love this, we want to hear this song. And so we're like, okay, let's relearn this song. And then you do it, and then it's like a room full of people just like,
and you're like, why do we put all that effort in?
Why do we do this? So, I mean, you don't want to just like, well, here's the 4 albums people want to hear, and just only take from those. But at the same time, it's just like, I figured like do mostly that, and then maybe a couple pepper the old stuff, and then can't say we didn't do any old songs, you know, that kind of thing. So
I think one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, talking about someone having to learn someone else's material. You know, I don't know if you're a Voivod fan, but so Chewy, so when Chewy took all the, you know, did all the tablature of Piggy's old stuff, and they really, I was so impressed, because, you know, the nerds were like, and they're just waiting, and they're like, no, you did that perfect. So
yeah, exactly. It's, and that I don't say of any band, but that band, like, you're going to have guys sitting there with a clipboard, waiting for you to play a part incorrectly, or just you misinterpreted or whatever. And I mean, I've seen him, you know, how long has he been in the band now with them? Like
long
10
time.
Years almost?
Oh yeah, easy.
I've seen him probably like, I mean, several times with him. And it's like, one, it's Dan, so he doesn't, he's an incredible player, but he just sounds perfect, you know? I know. It's like, I mean, I was like, you know, I listened, Nothing Face is one of my favorite heavy music albums.
Yeah.
And, you know, granted, when it came out, what, I think 89, 88, something like that?
88, 89, yeah.
Yeah, I bought it when I was like in, I think, either late junior high or early high school. And at that time, it's just like mind-boggling, you know. And then I, of course, still appreciate and listen to it, not all the time, but, you know, go back to it gladly. And it's, you know, since I've, you know, gotten a lot more experience under my belt, there's stuff I'm like, oh, okay, I could figure that out. But there's a lot of it still, it's like only his mind could come up with that. So for Dan to like painstakingly, meticulously do that is just beyond, you know. And say when he was filling in for Gorgas too, you know, way back in the early 2000s, it's just,
it's me. And the crazy thing about Voivod is, like, you know, if you were to talk to Michel about all this, you know, the way people look, like, you know, the clipboard and analyzing, for him, it would be so like, what? Like they're so mild mannered, dude. Like him and Snake would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like why?
Yeah. These guys. That's like, yeah. Why are these guys here?
Like why? No, but why do you like? We're just making music. Like why? It's not nothing to analyze. Like because they're so like mellow, laid back guys.
Yeah, it's like they unintentionally or unwittingly created this, or didn't create, but helped contribute to like these people who are like basically taking demerits for every little misstep or something like that.
Most unassuming music snob music makers that I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really, really glad that we got a chance to chat, man. Thank you for taking the time. I know you got to run because I'm checking here. Yeah, so I'm going to get you out of here early. But new album's coming out in May. You're going to be in Montreal soon.
I think the 28th. Or
I think it's 20th.
I know we're the 27th in Toronto, so I'm just assuming.
You're here I know you're here. I know you're exactly here on the 26th of May because it's my wedding anniversary.
Okay, yeah.
It's my wedding anniversary, and my wife's like, "We're not going to see Cattle Decapitation on our wedding anniversary." I'm like, "Please."
You're like, "Honey, come on,
babe.
This is my gift."
Like they're vegetarian like us. I mean,
see. But we go to dinner early and then catch the show, and then
we can we can go have like raw vegan food, and then we can go check them out, and it's going to be a perfect. But no, it's a hard sell. But honestly, dude, I'm really excited for people to hear the record. I think it's great, and I hope that I'm glad to hear what you told me about the Amon Amarth tour, because that is what, essentially that is what those kind of tours are for a smaller band. And when you see a band grow like that, it's a great thing. And you guys hit all the marks, man. You've got the merch down, you've got the music down, you've got the chops down. So hats off to you and continued success. And thanks for taking the time, man. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. I really appreciate it. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to talk with you here.
So, what really hit me in the feels and the heart and the memories is when he was talking about just, oh yeah, we're opening and we don't know, we're playing at 6:30 and what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And right in the feels, I remember the only time I ever played Club Soda was at Pusa Fest. And it was the real deal. And we're opening up for the Mad Caddies. And we must have been, the St. Catharines were there that day too. A whole bunch of bands. So we're on that day. We're going to be playing early. And I'm just like, oh man, it's going to be packed. Yeah, whatever. Pusa, woo. But I'm like, I never show up to shows early. And then we're playing on stage. And believe it or not, it was very, very empty. But my friend Paul and a bunch of other dear friends were right there in the front row. And you know what? You can look at this memory two different ways. You'd be like, that time I played in front of a half-empty Club Soda before anybody showed up, or the time that two people who saw me in the shittiest venues ever got to see me play the big show just once. Yeah. And that gives me all the fuzzies.
Yeah, it's fun when you talk to bands, and I love the fact that Josh is able to look at his career and say, hey, yeah, man, like we paid our dues, we've grown in certain places, and there's I love when especially because we do talk to a lot of musicians on the show, and I do love hearing the stories of the growth and getting there and appreciating it when you get there, and not ever forgetting how you got there, and I think this is a band that has always put in a lot of hard work. So I'm excited that we got to chat with him. I think it was really fun, and I love the fact that you and I are able to talk to pretty much anybody on this show. And that's what the beauty of this show is, that we can have 1 week on someone from Cattle Decapitation, and the next week we could have someone like Sass Jordan on the show.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So not foreshadowing that we're going to have Sass Jordan on or anything, but stranger things have happened. And we might have someone from Stranger Things on. Okay, now we're really just throwing people for loops. All right, so it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with all of you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the continued interest in the podcast. And please like, subscribe, tell your friends. Let us know what you'd like to hear or see, or who you'd like to see on the podcast, and we'll do our best to have them on. And click that subscription button. That really, really helps us. Subscribe to the podcast, especially if you're watching us on YouTube. Big thanks to our title sponsor, Heartbeat Hot Sauce. I'm holding up the In Flames one, and you can get Heartbeat Hot Sauce anywhere. Ryan's got a nice used up bottle. That's what I like to see. Not this shiny stuff that's like, oh, look, let's put some like fake dew on the bottle and take a close up glamour shot.
When you think of me, Rockman, I hope you think used up.
It's Ryan tore up Jelena. So a big thanks to our title sponsor, Heartbeat Hot Sauce. Check them out at heartbeathotsauce.com and use our promo code Rockman20 to get 20% off your entire order, and you will not be disappointed, I guarantee you. Also, thanks to Studio House Designs for keeping us looking fresh. Ryan's got the Tobe Hooper stack. It is wonderful. I love all those movies. And thanks to our producer, Julia Kajerski. Thanks to my co-host, Ryan Stick. And thanks to AKG. Ryan, tell me, you wanted to say something to me about AKG.
I love AKG. I love AKG so much. Sometimes I do voice auditions.
Yeah.
And everybody who I work with has commented
how good
on the quality of how much better this microphone is than our microphones. And what's incredible about it is like it literally changes whatever you need it for. You can get into it closely and you could sound really cool like this, or you could turn it louder. You could capture a guitar amp. It's absolutely fascinating. I'm so glad this microphone happens to be in my life, and I'm really glad we get to podcast with it.
Me too. And we are using the, if you're listening and you're wondering, we are using the C214 from AKG, which is a great versatile microphone. We're very, very happy that they're on board with us on the podcast as well. So thanks to them. Thanks to our producer, Julia Kajerski. Thanks to my co-host, Ryan Stick. And thanks to all of you for joining us on this journey. We'll see you next time on the Rockman Power Hour.